Sunday morning?
Oh, I already went live. So whatever you said, it's gonna have to be here on the air. What's going on? Good morning, internet. Mike. Wait, no, yeah, Mike's not here. So it's just Tony and Joe talking fantasy football this morning. We didn't really post or talk about this, so not sure who's going to show up. But if you do, the chat over there, put your questions in. We'll talk about it. I wouldn't call it advice. It's a recommendation from other football nerds. But we're always excited for football season. Week one was great. We didn't do the fantasy wake up call, as we like to call it, last Sunday because we were all at Chargers versus Raiders. Great game, J.K. Dobbins breakout. But yeah, we're going to be talking about some of our situations in our lineups, and anybody who joins in, feel free to comment on that, or let's talk about who you got in your roster that you're worried about. You want to start? You want to sit? Let's have a conversation about it. Joe,
Yeah.
how you doing this morning, brother?
It's a great Sunday morning. Can't wait to get the games going. Last week we were in the stadium. This week we get to sit at home and watch it. So I'm excited. I did get one question already from TikTok, so I threw it on our message board here. If you guys are watching on TikTok, please come over to MJT Football on YouTube. It's easier to throw the comments on the screen. MJT Football on YouTube. And if you guys are watching here, just make sure you guys, like Tony said, put your starts and sits in the comments, and we'll try to help you out here. But yeah, I'm ready to go, Tony. I know a lot of people are. We could start with some multiple games, but since somebody already threw a question, we'll throw it out there right now. But there it is I put it on the screen for you, Tony. Aaron Jones, Isaiah Likely, or Brian Robinson at the flex.
So I think I feel like I'm gonna have to go with Aaron Jones, right? We saw a great performance in week one. The volume was there. I know the defense seems to be the best situation. Brian Robinson got good volume, had a good week one, so that's also another one. I'm going with those two spots. I mean, Isaiah Likely had an amazing week, and we all love to chase that high in fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my goodness, did you see? He is going to be the tight end one this year. Like, this guy isn't even a tight end. He's actually just a flex wide receiver. But let's see it if it's like multiple weeks in a row. Obviously, if you have a bad tight end situation, if you got Joe Ferguson, Isaiah Likely's, that's the spot where you want to go to. Where you had a dud in week one from your guy, and you're like, let me roll the dice here. But if I got to start somebody, I'm going Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson Jr., then Likely. That will be my order for this one.
And I lean towards running backs as well. And even though they are going up against the San Francisco defense, that San Francisco D-line isn't the same D-line that it was the last couple of years, and it's going to take some time to get going. So I do like Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones, I think I'm with you as well. I would rank it Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, Isaiah Likely this week. And because a lot of people are going to say, well, the Raiders defense likely going to have a good matchup. But you also have Mark Andrews is not going to continue to have games like he did last week where he's not going to be 100% out there. They're going to use both of them. And they have a lot of weapons over there in Baltimore. So I would go Isaiah or Aaron Jones before I go Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
Hey, and Zach said, and the guy who's asking the question said he already has Travis Kelce, so that works out perfect for him. You don't want to. You really like in today's fantasy world. If you're not playing 7.5 reception or points yards per yards, 1 point for every 7.5 yards, then what are you playing? You're not really wanting to play two tight ends anyway. You just want to play one if you have to. If your league even has tight ends, because that's one that position that people are going away with. In fantasy football.
I have a league where I'm way ahead of the curve on that, Joe. We haven't had a tight end since like 2012 in this one league, and it bothers me. It's you only start 8 players on your roster. It's annoying, but let's talk about other people's rosters. And I think that if you are already starting Travis Kelce, no need to do that. Aaron Jones is also in a situation like, let's say things get out of hand. All of a sudden they need to start playing catch up. or they go to more prevent defenses, we might be able to get, those sort of garbage time check down. When your running back's having a tough spot and the team that they're playing on is getting blown out or losing by like 13 to 17 points, and you're like, let's just have one of those drives where the defense is like max prevent, linebacker might be spying a mobile quarterback situation, and we just want 3 or 4 dump offs and like 35 garbage time yards. Like, let's get that 6.5 to 7 points. Maybe Aaron Jones ends up in a situation like that.
So somebody's asking, trade Josh Allen for Lamar and Chase. Like, if somebody offered you that deal, I'd quickly.
Your computer glitched for a second, but I think you said you would make that trade.
Yeah, 100% I would make that trade.
Yeah, I think I would have to make that trade too. Let's say Josh Allen still is QB1 in fantasy football. The difference between him and Lamar is not great enough for me to pass up on Chase. Like, even if the point is a 50-point difference there, Jamar Chase is way more worth that 50-point option. Even if you got to go and drop a guy on your bench, you're scrolling through and you're like, oh, who's on here that could be dropped? Darnell Mooney, Greg Dortch, like those guys that are there where they're usable players in fantasy. These are players you probably should have on the end of your bench. They're wide receiver 2 volume in their offense, but come on, man, you can't pass this.
And if you're still getting offered that for Josh Allen after the performance, like he had his worst fantasy performance last week, and so I would sell it. I mean, why not? If you're getting a number 1 wide receiver and a number 1 quarterback, it's a no-brainer. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, Joe, let's reward the people that are actually here in the YouTube chat. We got Brian G coming in saying Raiders.
I saw him, and then my boy Rob Ryan in the house, and I already pulled his comment on the screen for you. Yeah. Rob Ryan in here right before his coaching game has to go and coach game for him. Dobbins or Etienne.
So this is
he has a 2-parters. So
yeah, he's got 2 here. So here's what I obviously, as a fan, love to see what J.K. Dobbins did last week. Like, nothing excited me more for the human being, for the 25-year-old young man that got to go out there and have a day after what he's been through. Fantastic. But you still got to start Travis Etienne if this is your option. What you valued him as is somebody that is that elite player that is going to be guaranteed a certain amount of touches. Like, JK didn't even get into the game until the second half. Now, I do think that they're going to continue to be that the Chargers will continue to have a work split between Gus and JK. But come on, like he did that work last week on 10 touches, which is kind of a bad sign for the Raiders, but that's a whole different point. This is a situation where we know Etienne's going to get 12 to 15 carries and probably 4 or 5 targets in the pass game. Like, even though they are working in Bigsby a little bit more, like they wanted to do it last year. They didn't trust him. They do trust him. It seems like this year, I still think you got to have Etienne in your lineup at this spot. As far as the second part of this question, I'll be much quicker since we talked so much about Etienne, or I did. I'm probably going to go with Etienne again in this situation, but it is much closer because Ford is the guy. Like, he's the guy, the only guy right now. They didn't play D'Onta Foreman, and I'm not like, I don't feel threatened if I'm a fantasy manager by Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong, very good real life football player. I don't know about fantasy.
And would you take Etienne over Josh Jacobs? That's another question too, since we're on the Etienne topic. You're saying don't worry about week 1 of what you saw from Etienne and the Jaguars. He had a bad fumble. It's okay. We'll get it going against the Cleveland Browns today. But that was another question, Josh Jacobs or Etienne, because Josh Jacobs is without Jordan Love, right?
Sure, but I mean, well, how does everybody have these rosters where it's just like I wonder what their receivers are too. Like whenever you hear about these receivers, you're like, oh, well, wide receiver one must be like Terry McLaurin, and they're like, oh no, I've also got like Jamar Chase and Marvin Harrison and these running backs. Like I don't understand how this works out. I in that situation, Joe, I'm probably still going to just I'm not taking out Travis Etienne in week 2 because of a fumble at the goal line, maybe a little less production last week or average production. And I know Cleveland is considered a tougher defense, but I mean, Zeke had some juice against them, and we think that Etienne's, a far better player at this point in his career than Zeke. So I would continue to roll. I don't blame anybody who doesn't like to start running backs against good defenses. Like if you feel like, oh man, I just got a better matchup. But my thing is, if I drafted Etienne to be potentially RB1, RB2, I'm leaving him in there until I see a bit more from these other teams.
Yeah.
J.K. was great flex option for me this week. I'm playing him at my flex in one of my leagues.
Brian said if the Bills face a bad run defense, Josh is getting low fantasy points. And we saw that last week or this week. I'll give it to Dobbins, but man, that Raiders defense was gassed and was horrible. Yeah, part of that was when J.K. Dobbins came in, but you would think that Gus Edwards is going to get more of the carries in Los Angeles, and J.K. Dobbins is more of the second back. And you got to wonder if that's going to continue in Los Angeles. That who's going to have more? But I think you'll see a better game from Gus Edwards today. Jordan the Darkness right here, Tony, and he's bringing up your old favorite player, Keenan Allen, Jerome Ford or Keenan Allen at his flex.
So this is pretty easy for me. I'm going with Jerome Ford. Keenan had the heel injury all week. I just don't like starting a player with an uncertain quarterback situation where it's like long term. Many people, including myself, believe Caleb Williams is going to be a top 7, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But right now, on the road, prime time, I know the guy said he doesn't get nervous, but between that and Keenan having a little bit of a foot thing going on, I'm gonna rock with Jerome Ford this week. Jerome Ford was one of those guys in the draft. When we go back, my 2 favorite running backs from that draft class, I'll just go with my 2 that I talked about nonstop on our shows were Dameon Pierce and Jerome Ford. You know, those guys that were going to have value. Now, the Chargers selected Isaiah Spiller. That's fine. Didn't work out for him. I hope that young man balls out wherever he ends up next. Jerome Ford is a good running back in this league. Like even when Nick Chubb comes back, like at some point, Jerome Ford is going to get starting capability. Like there's sometimes when people give you analysis and you really trust them. Like one of the guys that I love to listen to is Greg Cosell. Been working for NFL Films, breaks down film, and he was the first person I ever heard talk about Jerome Ford as like, oh, this guy's going to be a good player at the next level. So then I'm no dummy. I'm going to listen to what he says. You start watching him and you're like, oh yeah, this guy's good.
Yeah, I have Jerome Ford starting in my league, and until the Chicago Bears offense shows us something, I'm kind of going to stay away from them. Like they got that preseason hype that they wanted, but they didn't come out and show you anything in week 1. And injuries don't help. But you're getting a number 1 running back going up against a pretty damn good team, a good matchup for fantasy football. So I would take Jerome Ford. Harrison in the house, Tony, and he's saying, hey, just wanted to say best of luck to Tony because you already know that Harrison is a Panthers fan, and he said he'll probably be drunk by the end of the game.
I did see that. Harrison, there's no need to be drinking over this team. Like this is not a Panthers team. You're gonna end up with like liver, kidney failure and shit. Don't be.
Well, he just turned 21, so he's probably still having that little fun with it. So it's more of an excuse to drink than actually drinking over the Panthers, right? Because nobody really cares about the Panthers. Like,
I do think that when the Panthers are good, you see a stadium that's a lot of fun. right? Like when the Panthers are good, you get people out at the games. When it's
They're like,
"Rawr," yeah,
rawr.
keep pounding. I really do hope that the Chargers show up and don't lay an egg in this game, because they should be able to take advantage on the defensive line against that Panthers offensive line, and the O-line should be able to block for plenty of yards and opportunities for Herbert to move the ball downfield.
Well, Tristan's asking you right here. He wants a big game from Ladd. Do we see a big game from Ladd or Pickens?
The thumbnail image here is fantastic. A lot of excitement here from Tristan. That's great. I like either one of these guys. So for me, this is the type of situation where it's like, how much trust are you putting in Justin Fields, Joe? Where he had some big shots. There was the offensive PI that got called back, or Pickens Day would have looked even better in week one. But they were taking some shots. Do they take a couple more of those shots? How much is Pat Surtain on George Pickens on the outside? That matters to me in this spot. Ladd McConkey, I think, has the better matchup. But again, you're talking about a team that I know everybody says like all the Chargers want to do is run the ball. I believe they threw more they passed the ball more than they ran the ball in week one against the Raiders. So like there wasn't that many plays because there was a very stagnant offense in the first half. But if they get to 60, 65 plays, the Chargers are going to throw the ball 30 to 35 times. Like they're going
and
to
every team wants to be a balanced attack. Nobody goes out there going, we want to run the ball 40 times. Everybody wants to be balanced, and you talk about it. And if whatever's working for you works, and you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, you don't think they want to see Justin Herbert win some games for him? Like, I thought Ladd showed a lot last week and showed that, hey, he could have a promising rookie year. So, but am I taking him over Pickens? I don't know, because Pickens has also showed that he could take one to the house at any point, and he's proven over the year, no matter who his quarterback is, he's been able to put up fantasy points. And we both agree that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to actually score some touchdowns this week instead of field goals. And if you're going to think of who's going to score the touchdowns, it's going to have to be Pickens, right? At least one of them.
Yeah. You know how sometimes in life people just need a little push? They need a little encouragement. The only reason Tristan asks a question like this is because he wants to start Ladd, and he needs a little push. And I'll tell you what, Tony and Joe are here to give it to you. Start Ladd McConkey.
All right. I'm down for it. I'm all for it, because I think Ladd's going to have a good game too.
Got to go watch. You got to go watch Keegan-Michael Key doing his teacher bit from Key and Peele back in the day on Rich Eisen. He gave him some names to read off, and the first one he was like Ledede McConkey, Ledede McConkey, and they're like, you mean Ladd McConkey? He's like, boy, you better listen up. But Keegan-Michael Key is an absolute gem, absolutely fantastic comedian and improviser.
He's just saying that Chargers running backs are going to have a great day today with Derek Brown being out, the best defensive lineman for the Panthers.
Lot of injuries there for the Panthers on the D line. Actually, like when you really look at their injury report, it's like they're missing a lot. So hopefully that's the case. The interior struggled in the first half, got it together in the second half, and they were able to.
So Brian G saying that Evan Ingram just got ruled out about 10 minutes ago with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, I saw that come up on my notifications here. Yeah, that was crazy
because they did. That must have came after they did the inactives.
So yeah, it was happening pregame warmups. That's what my notification said.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, it's definitely not good, especially like, sometimes you have those people in your league and like they're doing stuff that's more important than this right now, right, Joe? Like they're at church or they're with their family or they're still sleeping because it's their day off.
Yeah.
They're just doing those things that are like healthy, positive activities. And it's that guy who has Evan Ingram in his lineup. And then he's going to get to a TV at like 10:07 and be like, what the? And it's just going to eat at him all day. Like what happened?
And the Cleveland Browns have injuries on their offensive line, which I'm looking at their inactive report, Tony. And with Conklin and Willis out and Cohan and another guard, like That's a sneaky situation for Jacksonville to win this game. I think both of us have picked Jacksonville to win the game anyways, but that doesn't help when your offensive line's hurt and your quarterback has a lot of question marks.
Yeah,
I'm kind of used to that.
I really like Joe, I've always been a supporter of Trayvon Walker. I said I would have picked him first in that draft, even though I am a Michigan fan and I love Aiden Hutchinson. I just thought that the upside of Trayvon Walker, and I think not each week, but like every so often, we're starting to see the jumps where Trayvon Walker really is maturing and learning how to play like a true hand in the dirt edge rusher type player. And we saw it again last week. He had some great rushes, got a nice sack on Tua in that week. The tackles are banged up, and you got Josh Hines-Allen and him out there. Like, I picked the Jags in this game, and I feel great about it. So I want to give a quick shout-out for anybody who's scrambling. I'm going to give a shout-out to Hayden Hurst. I think he got 3-4 targets in last week's game. Opportunity for a little revenge situation here. Went down to Carolina, didn't have the most fun in that spot. And we know this week Palmer's been dealing with a bit of a knee injury. So if you're looking to take a flyer on a tight end, Hayden Hurst, but also like maybe some people gave up on Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert, week one, like just go to the waiver wire right now and see. Maybe somebody just gave up a week earlier on a player. Pat Freiermuth, maybe.
Hey, Tony, what?
Go ahead.
One tight end is the guy from the Rams. I can't think of his name. He has a big old long name.
Colby Parkinson.
I think he might be on a couple waivers out there. If you guys are looking for somebody, he had a great volume last week.
Yeah, he's. I think he was stuck up in Seattle as like a blocking type receiver. Him and Will Dissly, both out. Both guys that they're good in the passing game. They're also just very good at blocking too. Yeah, maybe even look at somebody like Mike Gesicki. I'm not sure where he's at. I know the other tight end they had, Tanner Hudson, he got injured. He also fumbled last week. Yeah, I'm looking at this right here from Parkinson. Five targets, 4 catches for 47 yards. That's usable in a pinch. Like I'm happy when my tight end gets me a floor of like 8 to 9 points. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. But I've also been, living through the wounds of Kyle Pitts in a dynasty league, and I got to be like, okay, got 8.5, Kyle. There we go. Another week. We're at it.
Yeah. I just read last night, Tony, that they said that Gesicki's touchdown, the NFL said it should have counted last week, which would have had the Bengals winning that game. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that, but I hate when the NFL does shit like that. Like sometimes you just don't share that kind of information. Like because in my mind, it's like, so if it would have counted, I understand that it would have changed something, but now let's give the Bengals
34% of people in Las Vegas that lost their survivor pool would love to have that reversed.
Exactly. But more so, it's like, so how do we fix this situation of something that should have been probably fixed on the field? Because it wasn't like they couldn't have taken an extra 30 seconds and the NFL could have gotten it right.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, Joe, when we were younger, you didn't have all these camera angles and all these slow-mos and enhancements and whatever else. It was just like you just fought forever and you were like, he was in. And the other guy was like, no, he was out. He was in. He was out. It didn't matter. Like, you had no way to prove it. The NFL never released a statement in a newspaper and was like, yeah, on further review.
Well, and the badass thing, when we were kids, you had the force out rule. Like, if he would have landed in bounds, it would have been a touchdown. I love that one. They got rid of that. But Mimsy's in the house, Tony.
What up, Mimsy? I really want to say Josh Palmer, but I am currently in a dilemma that I was telling Joe about right before we went live. Sometimes, you love a player, but you got to set him free. So I have a situation where Gus Edwards is on the wire. My running back situation on this specific team is a little weak. But I have Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer's been battling a knee injury, and we don't know how severe it is because things are tough to tell with Harbaugh. Do I drop my favorite player? Like, legit. How many people do you know have a Josh Palmer jersey? Like, I'm a fan of this young man. I want him to succeed. But at the same time, it's like he can succeed on somebody else's team, and I'll still be happy. Like I don't need to have him on my fantasy team. It's sort of a bonus if he does. Like I want him to succeed first for the Chargers, first for himself, for all the hard work he puts in. I'm thinking about dropping him to pick up Gus Edwards because I need a chance at a running back situation that might materialize more than I need that wide receiver where it's like could get me 10, could get me 3, could get me 20. It's a little volatile.
Well, he's in a bad spot because AJ Brown is your man. Like that's who's bringing in your points for your fantasy footballs, and now you have to wait till what Monday night if he's going to play, and that sucks because you don't want to wait till Monday night because then you actually have nothing. But luckily, he has Dotson there where if he's waiting, so I still would wait for tomorrow, and my decision would be AJ Brown or Dotson, and that would be the conversation right there. Because
Joe, I made this question about me, a narcissist.
I know you did.
I wanted you to talk about me first, and instead,
I know you did. That's why I turned it back to Mimsy, because Mimsy is here for our help, or he's dying. But you got to go with AJ Brown and hope that he turns out to play, but I doubt it. But you got to hope that he does, and if not, you go with Dotson. But the worst thing you want to do is play Palmer today, and then all of a sudden tomorrow they go, "Hey, AJ Brown is 100% ready to go," and then you're like, "Oh."
This is a no-brainer. That's why I took the opportunity to make it about me. You do not play Josh Palmer over AJ Brown because theoretically that's what you're doing in this spot.
Yeah.
You don't do that. If you have somebody with like higher upside, like if you had like, oh, I have Terry McLaurin, then you could consider that. But Palmer, we just don't know enough about what the Chargers offense is going to look like. In past years, I would have said like, oh, Keenan's out and Mike's out and Palmer's going to be wide receiver 1. Yeah, that feels a little bit safer. But we don't know what the offense is going to look like with Greg Roman, who's going to be heavy target.
Oh yeah, you're I just saw that right now. Then AJ Brown has been ruled out for tomorrow just 22 minutes ago.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, this is terrible news. I'm playing Joe in a big matchup this week.
As soon as we come on live, Ian Rappaport wants to break news, and we're like, now you want me to go check Twitter. So yeah, if
Heartbreak City
again, does that make a difference for you? Yeah, it's on there right now. So I just saw it. He said it in the comments. So and I just checked it right now. Yeah, AJ Brown has been downgraded to out for the hamstring injury.
Yikes.
Okay, that changes me, Tony, because now I don't know how much Dotson is going to be involved in the offense. We assume that he's going to be a great addition to that offense. Now I'm going Palmer. But Tony is going to tell you that he likes to watch somebody on Monday night. So if you like to watch somebody on Monday night and you need those points to chase it on Monday night, then you go with Dotson, right, Tony? Because that's what you're going to do.
Joe, you read my mind. I was going to build up to it in a fun way again, but Joe, this is 100% what it is. If I get a chance to have a player on Monday night, I'm going to feel good about it because they're probably also going to bump up Jahan Dotson's projection from like whatever it might have been at like 4.1. Now they'll bump it up to like, 9.38 or some weird number. And it's like, that's enough. That's all the hope you need. Just a sliver of hope to dive in and make that be, what you get, that little extra juice for Monday Night Football. That's the fun part.
So thanks, KP, for keeping us up to date. Sometimes it's hard to read the current news when you're on the your live stream. I appreciate you bringing that in. Mimsy, it's up to you. Like, if you want those extra points on Monday night, what happened, Tony?
Just because I have AJ Brown out, and my best option is Josh Palmer.
Oh, you were just cut him, release him, get rid of him.
So I also have Jaleel McLaughlin against Steelers. I have Tajay Spears against the Jets. Josh Palmer and Khalil Shakir already played and got me 10 points. Yeah. So,
I do like this question by KP. KP is a good one. Pick 2: Jacoby Myers, Isaiah Likely, or Christian Kirk. Tony, which one's you liking?
Sorry. I'm making bad decisions over here. Pick 2, Jacoby Likely, Kirk. Kirk had a tough game in week 1. I don't think that continues. I think the volume is still there. I wouldn't give up on him yet. And then I like Jacoby Myers as an opportunity to potentially play in some garbage time. I think the Ravens can score more against the Raiders than the Chargers did. And if this is a situation where they have a 10, 13-point lead or whatever, maybe Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers get a few more easy catches in the second half. A few more off coverage, slant, keep it in front of you, 8-9 yard gain type plays. Pin your ears back on a third down, go get the quarterback situation. So I would probably go Kirk and Jacoby. I know it seems that I might be anti-likely. I am definitely not, but.
Well, you're just trying not to build up a week 1 great matchup, but it was mostly all in the second half. And I understand. You're not trying to overreact to Monday, to week 1 of the fantasy football season. I think that's what you're looking at.
Likely's a great option for anybody who just lost Evan Ingram. Like for anybody who's without Ferguson, for anybody who's without Njoku. Like if those were guys that you were banking on, Isaiah Likely is the best possible upgrade that you could be putting in for hope. But to say you're going to start him over like guys that we know are proven, like Jacoby Myers is a player that scores 180 fantasy points every year. That I just have trouble taking guys like those out, and then go ahead.
So I have a question for you, Tony, because this is the dilemma that I have today. Is I have a quarterback position. I lost Jordan Love, and I was able to draft Justin Herbert, and I made a trade for Jaden Daniels. So I have 2 quarterbacks now, Justin Herbert and Jaden Daniels. And I really right now I've put Justin Herbert in on Monday, and I've set him there all week. But I really want to go with Jaden Daniels and the upside of running the ball against the New York Giants. Which one would you be starting today?
As long as the weather's good on the East Coast, I would be starting Jaden Daniels for the upside of the running, right? Because like there is a scenario in which Chargers get a couple of quick turnovers, and then this game is they're just not throwing the football. They're like, hey, let's just try and.
I'm making the move right now, Tony. Herbert,
run the ball, get out of here.
Out. Jaden Daniels in.
Yep. And basically what I did there was I don't want any Chargers doing anything good for a Raiders fan. There it is. Nobody.
Well, it doesn't matter because in our league against you, in a league against you in the Las Vegas Fantasy Football Conference, I'm starting Gus Edwards.
Why are you starting Gus Edwards over Charbonnet?
Just to piss you off.
I wondered how. I was like, wait, I checked it this morning. Joe was projected to outscore me. You know what's funny is that I get what the projections are, but I probably would have done the same thing. I think that New England's game plan, right, is to stop the run, is to focus on that, get to third down when you're in a situation. And then it's like, all right, we got Keon White, we got Uche. We're going to find ways to get after the quarterback on third down and get you off the field. And they're not going to be out there just getting gashed. I did think Zach Moss had some nice runs against them last week, but if my memory serves, I don't think the Bengals were too effective in the run game, Chase Brown or Zach Moss.
Yeah, and I'm just leaning more towards New England's defense being able to stop it. And what happens, like you said, Tony, if the Chargers are up 14-0, what are they going to do? They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to get these guys going. And I've already talked about how I think Gus Edwards is going to have a better game than he did last week right there. Now, I do like Charbonnet this week, so if you have him in your fantasy lineup and it just depends on who else you have, but I do actually like him, especially with Walker's injury. I have Charbonnet in most leagues. I'm not starting him. I don't think I am because I just took him out for Gus Edwards in the league against you. And in the other league, I have Zamir White, Charbonnet, and Jerome Ford for that one running back position. And I put Jerome Ford in this.
Yeah, I probably would do that. I would have that same start going there. Yeah, it's Charbonnet's like a weird situation, right? Because the idea is, I think they drafted him in like the second round, but like he hasn't really ever had games where you're like, oh, this is a guy, and like maybe he hasn't had a lot of opportunities or whatever. Like he's good at yards per carry. He's involved in the passing game. We've just never seen it. But maybe this is the week where you look at it and you go, oh, wow, the Seahawks really have two dominant running backs. You know, the Seahawks are in one of those like Bijan Algier situations where it's like they've got 1 and 1A situation going on. So, Joe, let's wrap this up. I'm going to go make some breakfast. Get out of here. Hope everybody has a great week 2. Hope to be back here week 3 and getting to talk fantasy football with my friends. We did.
Hey, what's my shirt say?
0-2? I can't zoom in a little bit closer. Oh, we want the first overall pick in the draft. Merry Christmas, Raiders. Merry Christmas.
Sometimes you got to end the show.
It's gonna be so funny. You can end the stream whenever you want, Joe. It's gonna be so funny to listen.